The Ciriane tribes were loosely affiliated but culturally rich people that, by all accounts, were the earliest humans to inhabit what is now southern Orlais, likely migrating there many thousands of years ago. The north of Orlais and what is now Navarra were inhabited by the nomadic Ingirsh people, but they were all but destroyed when they rebelled against the Tevinter Imperium. Many of the survivors were absorbed into the Ciriane. The Ciriane were never sufficiently united to meaningfully oppose the might of Tevinter, which began invasion of their lands around 895 Ancient. Certainly they never posed the difficulties to the Imperium that the Alamari of the neighboring Ferelden Valley did. Nonetheless, they were sufficiently isolated that they maintained their distinctiveness and quite a bit of autonomy. Some chieftains maintained trade with the Alamari, which was how a tribeswoman named Brona came to marry an Alamari chieftain named Eldorath, and became mother to she who would become the prophet Andraste. When Andraste emerged from the Ferelden Valley with a vast Alamari army behind her and the name of her god, the Maker, on their lips in 180 Ancient, the Imperium quickly lost control of the south. Andraste's faith quickly took root among the Ciriane, and the faithful swelled her ranks. Upon her death in the imperial capital of Minrathous, her husband Mafrath divided rule of the southern lands between himself and his 3 sons. His eldest, Isarath, assumed rule over the Ciriane west of the Frostbacks. He married a Ciriane tribeswoman named Jeshavis, and gained enough respect from his subjects that he could still rule after his father was revealed as a traitor to the prophet. Isarath saw potential in his subjects, but found them to be too disunited to form a proper nation that could withstand a Tevinter attempt at reconquest. Under his grand unification, the Ciriane were consolidated into a single kingdom that he called Orlais in 155 Ancient. Isarath's brother, Verald, did not share such success. Verald was given rule over what is now Navarra, but his court was assassinated, and he barely escaped with his life, such was his unpopularity. Isarath gave his brother shelter, but the younger brother's weakness was Jeshavis's opportunity. Though devout to Andraste's faith, the Ciriane hated the rule of a foreigner, and resented the grand unification. Jeshavis was no exception. She played the brothers against one another, and convinced Verald to murder Isarath and his children. He married Jeshavis to solidify his rule, but she killed him in short order, claiming sole rulership of Orlais. She became Gyoja, a title given to the always female ruler of Orlais, who after Jeshavis were elected by the chieftains of the various Ciriane clans. She is often regarded as the progenitor of what would become the Grand Game, the contests of intrigue and influence that dominates Orlesian society. Jeshavis reigned for 42 years, but the unity of Orlais remained fragile. The clans were riven with bitter rivalries, and the election of a Gyoja became more contentious and bloody over time. Only their loathing of foreigners and common Andrastian faith held the clans together, and even then each clan had their own distinct cult. This state of affairs held for almost a century after the reign of Jeshavis, until the son of a reigning Gyoja set out to bring the clans of Orlais under his rule and forge the fragile unity of the tribes into one of the greatest superpowers the continent has ever seen. Very little of the ancient Ciriane culture has survived into modern Orlais, save perhaps the ruthless game of social climbing and rivalry that persists on every level of society. A short video that's really more of a lead-in for my upcoming video about the founder of the Orlesian Empire. You guys will see that relatively soon. Anyway, there is one contradiction I found, and it's a bit odd. According to codex entries about Jeshavis, the female chieftain of the United Ciriane is called a Gyoja. This information is repeated in the World of Thedas Volume 1, but according to the World of Thedas Volume 2, where it describes Orlais before Draken, the term is Gothi. I wasn't even sure if this was supposed to be the same term. I just decided to go with the former more or less arbitrarily. Maybe Gothi was an old version that slipped in when someone was reviewing notes for Volume 2. Anyway, have a nice day.